Now this is a lot of people ask me, is this wine worth it? So I came up, I'm looking for a skilled mathematician. I'd like to put this in a mathematical formula. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. But this is the Gasper the Wine Guy price quality theorem. The theorem is you start at five. I test this out every time I buy some, and I haven't been able to talk myself out of this yet. Starting at $5 a bottle, every time the price doubles, my perceived quality of the wine, goes down. The quality difference goes down 50%. By that I mean, I think a $10 bottle is 50% better than a $5 bottle. A $20 bottle is 25% better than a $10 bottle. A $40 bottle is 12.5% better than a $20 bottle. $80 bottle, it goes down the higher you go up, and at some point it becomes meaningless. Does it mean that if you buy a $500 bottle of wine, it's not worth $500? No, people buy things for different reasons. And we'll talk about that right here. What goes into a price of a bottle of wine? The cost of the grapes, obviously. If I buy a ton of grapes in the San Joaquin Valley in California, they're going to be not that expensive. I buy a ton of mountain fruit from Napa Valley, it's going to cost me a ton of money. So whoever makes the wine has to recover that cost in the price of the wine. The cost of the land. An acre of land in San Joaquin Valley is a lot less than an acre of land in Napa. They've got to get that out of the price of the wine that they charge you. The cost of the equipment, labor, and processing, the cost of bottling and shipping. These are all direct costs that you understand. But then you start getting into some soft factors. The reputation of the winemaker. If it's somebody that's been getting consistent 95-point scores for 10 years, you're going to pay more for that than if, I start a winery and it's my first year of production, because you don't know anything about me. So the reputation of the winemaker goes into the price of that bottle. Scarcity. If there's two wines, they're exactly as good as each other, but there's only one barrel made of this wine and there's 10,000 cases made of the other wine, you're going to pay more for the wine that there's only one barrel of because it's scarce. Not a lot of other people have it, and you're going to get some intrinsic value in knowing that you're one of the only people that possesses this particular bottle of wine. Market demand, the old supply and demand thing. If there's a lot, if there's a wine gets a great write-up, people run out and buy it, the price is going to go up. But if there's a person that doesn't spend any money marketing and nobody knows about their wine, that wine's, it could be as good, but they're not going to be able to get as much money for it. And collectability, certain wines get better over time, certain wines have more value over time. If a lot of people buy wine as an investment, some of the best wines ever produced rarely get consumed because collectors just buy them. Just like if you've got a rare coin, you're not going to use it to buy a stick of Doublemint gum. You're probably going to save that in your collection. A lot of folks don't drink some of the best wine in the world. And it's a fond memory. If, I remember the first time I met Bonnie Bradford, we had a particular wine. That wine's going to be worth a lot more to me than a lot of other wines if you attach a fond memory to a particular wine. So there's a lot of things other than the wine itself. And snob appeal. Heck, I really enjoy, I enjoy being able to own something that, somebody else doesn't enjoy and remind them that I have it and they don't. There's some intrinsic value in that. That goes into the price of a bottle of wine. Okay, what do you get at different price points? If you buy a wine that costs less than $5 a bottle, you get surplus grapes from bulk wine production areas. Grapes that have various degrees of ripeness. They don't have they can't afford to analyze whether these grapes are any good. They're just pick what's there and throw it in a bottle. Grapes are picked by machine, little nor sorting of grapes, lots of additives and flavoring agents. If you take grapes with various levels of ripeness and you want them to taste a certain way, you've got to add a lot of additives and flavoring to it to give you consistent flavor. So you're not tasting pure wine. There's a lot of things, a lot of manipulation goes in that wine to make it at least drinkable. If it's, says it's oak, it gets no exposure to real oak. An oak barrel on its own will add, a new oak barrel adds like $8 to a price of a bottle of wine just to pay for the barrel. So you're not going to get any real oak. You're going to get either oak flavoring, or they make these sawdust pellets that are put together with food glue that they throw in tanks and stuff like that to get that flavor. So let's say I don't care about any of that stuff. I still want something for less than $5 a bottle. My suggestion is to get some higher end box wines like Black Box or Bota Box. A 3-liter box, which is equivalent to 4 bottles, costs around $18. So you can get something drinkable. The quality is a lot better than 2 Buck Chuck or Pacific Peak or some other really cheap bottles of wines that are out there. And it'll last a month or so on your counter, or 6 weeks or so in your refrigerator. So if that's what you want to spend, that's my recommendation. If you want to get wines that cost between $5 and $15 a bottle, what you're getting there is better grapes from bulk wine production areas. Grapes are still picked by machine. Limited sorting of grapes. Probably have some additives and flavoring agents, but not to the extent that the really cheap wines do. If they want oak flavor, they'll use oak pellets, or they'll throw oak planks into big steel vats in order to give you some of the oak flavoring. Wines to buy. Wines don't need a lot of processing like Sauvignon Blanc. Any of you that went to the Sauvignon Blanc class, it's an easy grape to grow. They don't put it through malolactic fermentation. Very little of it is put in oak barrels. You can just squeeze it, ferment it, put it in a bottle. Some of the best cheap wines out there are Sauvignon Blancs. You can get some really good quality ones for not a lot of money. Wines from lesser known regions of France and Italy. There's some inexpensive Chiantis. There's some inexpensive Sangioveses. There's some inexpensive Montepulciano di Abruzzos that are pretty good. If you stay away from any of the main regions of France, like Bordeaux or Burgundy, you get something from southern France. You can get some decent bottles, especially rosés. Wines from lower cost countries like Spain, Bulgaria, Romania, Argentina, and Chile. You can get some decent wines for less than $15 from them. Australian reds and German Rieslings, you can get some decent ones in that price range. And if you want to get something American, Washington State makes some really good mass market wines from growers like Chateau Ste. Michelle and Columbia Crest. They're not going to be the best wines you ever tasted, but for that price point, they're good. Any of you that go to the October tasting, we're going to do really good lower cost wines from Washington State, and there's a brand there called Wine of Substance. They make some great wines for not a lot of money. If some red blends in that price point are pretty good, and if you want some bubbly, some basic Prosecco and basic Cava are pretty good in that price range. And if you want a red Zinfandel, you can look to Amador County or Lodi in California in that price range. Wines that cost $15 to $30 a bottle. There's some of the best grapes from second tier growing areas, surplus grapes from top level growing areas. Grapes are picked by machine, depending on the terrain. If it's a hilly area, they'll be picked by hand. Bad grapes and non-grape material are sorted out. There's a term in winemaking called MOG, M-O-G. It stands for matter other than grapes that get in the wine. That's, stems, bugs, other stuff that gets in the wine. That stuff's all sorted out. Very limited flavor additives and flavoring agents. Planks, neutral barrels, and limited use of new oak barrels. Wines to buy in this price range. I look for wines from Monterey County in California. Entry-level French wines like Côte d'Aron. You can get some outstanding, some really good Rhone wines in this price range. Chianti, Barbera, Pinot Grigio, Montepulciano, Valpolicella, Nebbiolo from Italy. Entry-level Sonoma, Santa Barbara County wines, good quality Prosecco, and higher quality bottlings from the areas previously mentioned. Wines that cost from $30 to $60 a bottle. Grapes from quality growing areas, combination of hand and machine picking. Even some of the best Bordeaux's, if the land is flat and the grapes ripen evenly, are picked by machine. Grapes are sorted. You're not going to get any bad grapes in there. Hardly any additives or flavoring agents, only new and neutral barrels used. This is for red wines. Wines to buy. Wines from Paso Robles, Sonoma, and entry-level Napa. Willamette in Oregon. I just got back from Willamette. Anybody wants to hear about it, we could talk about it when we're over. Barolo, Brunello, Barbaresco, Amarone from Italy. Champagne and Bordeaux from France. Higher quality bottlings from areas previously mentioned. And if you want wines that cost $60 plus, there's grapes from the top 5% of growing areas, mostly hand picking. Grapes are sorted and graded with only the top grapes used. Other than limited use of sulfites, no additives are used. Significant percentage of new barrels. Wines to buy. My favorite category of wines in the world, Super Tuscans from Italy. Wines from the top areas of Burgundy. Low production wines, rock star winemakers. If there's a really famous winemaker, you may enjoy buying some of their wines. Wines you want to collect and possibly use as an investment. Wines that have a story to tell or which you have an emotional connections. Sometimes it's worth it if you were at a place or it reminds you of your wedding day or the day you got divorced or some other significant day in your life. That it may be worth that to you